I was addicted to drugs and alcohol for over 35 years. And during those 35 years, I damaged a lot of relationships. I lied to people just to get what I wanted. I broke promises. Matter of fact, I broke promises I knew I couldn't and wouldn't keep. I said I was coming and I didn't show up, like to family gatherings, to events and stuff like that. I knew I wasn't gonna come, but I just told people that just so they can get off my back. I borrowed things and didn't return them back to the people that owned them. And a lot of times I borrow stuff because I know I can sell them and just to get one more. I told people this time is going to be different. But then I went right back to doing the same thing. So when I finally got sober, I thought everybody was supposed to believe me. I thought they were going to be happy for me. I thought they were going to be excited, throw a parade with confetti and all that type of stuff. And that didn't happen. I thought they were supposed to trust the words that's coming out of my mouth because I was telling the truth this time. But I didn't realize, or I didn't come to the conclusion that how many times did I say I was done and I was going to get better? Did it for years. So why would they believe me? Today I'm coming up on 5 years sober. My family trusts me now. Some of my family members actually called me for advice. My friendships are much stronger than they used to be in the past. I'm reliable at work, and I repair relationships that I honestly thought would never be repaired. Getting sober by itself did not rebuild my relationships. What I did after I got sober is what rebuilt trust with my family, loved ones, and friends. For me, it probably took my family about a year, maybe a year and a half, before they really started trusting the words that was coming out of my mouth. Chris Tucker, right? And at first, that bothered me. I was thinking, I'm sober now. Y'all have to believe me. Look at me. I'm doing better. I got a job, right? I'm saving money. I'm not living like that anymore. That's why I used to tell them, why don't y'all believe me? I had been sober for a few months, but they had over 35 years of experience of the old me. They remember the lies. They remember the disappointments. They remember me saying I was going to change before. So they were not wrong for being careful. They were protecting themselves. And I had to stop demanding trust from people I had trained not to trust me. Just because I was ready to change did not mean they were ready to trust me again. They needed time to watch me. They had to watch my footsteps because the words that come out of my mouth from before, it didn't line up. They had to watch my feet. They had to watch my steps. They needed to see whether it was real. In the big book, it talks about how alcoholism can tear through the lives of other people like a tornado. And when a tornado comes through a neighborhood, just because the storm stops doesn't mean everything is fixed. You still have damage. You still have things that need to be rebuilt. You still have people trying to recover from what happened. That's how it was with my addiction. The drug and alcohol stopped, but the damage didn't automatically disappear. That's where a lot of us get confused in early recovery. We think, I stopped using. What else do they want from me? But sobriety is not the finish line. Sobriety gives us the opportunity to start repairing the damage. And the big book says something powerful. Our behavior will convince people more than our words. That was true in my life. I had already talked enough. People needed to see something different. One thing that helped me rebuild relationships was learning how to listen without constantly defending myself. When somebody brought up something I did, my reaction was to explain it. I wanted to say, I was getting high. I wasn't in my right mind. I didn't mean to hurt you. You know I was going through something. And yes, addiction explains why I did certain things, but it doesn't erase the impact my behavior had on other people. I had to stop using addiction as an excuse. I had to be able to sit there and say, I understand why you stopped trusting me. I told you one thing and I did another. I hurt you. You didn't deserve that. And then I had to listen. The Bible says in James, to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. That was something I had to practice because sometimes people are going to tell you the truth about how you affected them and you're not going to like hearing it. Everything does not need an explanation. Sometimes you just need to listen and take responsibility. An apology wasn't enough. I said I'm sorry over and over again. But many times I was apologizing because I needed something. I needed $20 before I left, right? I got caught stealing my niece's purse, stealing $20 out of her purse. Years later, I made my amends and took care of that situation. Recovery taught me that an apology and an amends are not the same thing. An apology is something you say. An amends is something that you do. Sometimes making amends means paying someone back, like what I did with my niece. Sometimes it means replacing something you damaged or stole. Sometimes it means admitting you lied and take accountability for it. Sometimes it means showing up for your children, if you have some. For me, it's for showing up for my nieces and nephews, and also my sister and also my other family members. Sometimes it means respecting somebody's boundaries. If they're not ready for me to be around, I just don't be around them. And sometimes the only amends you can make is to never repeat the same behavior. The Bible talks about making peace and trying to make things right with people. But making amends does not mean forcing yourself back into somebody's life. They may not be ready. You don't show up at somebody's house because you're ready to talk. You don't call somebody on the phone and unload all your guilt on them just so you can feel better. The purpose of an amends is to repair the harm, not create more harm. And we also have to understand that some relationships may not come back. You could do everything right and another person still decides they don't want a relationship with you. But that's okay. I became predictable in healthy ways. I started answering the phone when they called, and I put them on red. I showed up when I said I was coming. I actually showed up early. I stopped making big promises. I started keeping small commitments. I kept appointments, right? If I had a doctor's appointment, I went. I didn't just reschedule, right? I called people back. If I was busy at work or something in my personal life and I said I was going to hit them back, I hit them back ASAP. I told the truth, even when the truth made me look bad. That's a big one. I became reliable at work. My employer knows I'm going to show up. They know I'm going to handle my responsibilities. They know they can depend on me. My friendships became stronger because everything stopped being about me. I stopped being so selfish and self-centered. I started calling to check up on other people to see how they was doing. I started listening instead of always talking about my problems. I learned how to be there for people instead of always expecting people to be there for me. And people started paying attention. They watched how I handled pressure. They watched how I handled disappointment. They watched how I acted when I didn't get my way. They watched whether I disappeared when life became uncomfortable. Relationships are not usually rebuilt through one big moment. They are rebuilt through hundreds and thousands of small, responsible decisions. Another thing I had to understand was that my family's healing did not have to happen on my schedule. I had a sober date. They didn't have a forgiveness date. They were allowed to still hurt. They were allowed to still be angry. They were allowed to have questions. They were allowed to wait and see. And I had to stop saying, why are you still bringing up the past? Because for me, it was the past. But for them, the pain was still very real. The big book talks about patience, kindness, and tolerance and love for other people. That sounds simple until we have to practice it with somebody who still doesn't trust you. Patience means I continue doing the right thing even when people are not giving me credit yet. It means I don't get angry because they're watching me. It means I don't say, forget it. If you don't believe me, I might as well go back to using. That's manipulation. Real change doesn't depend on applause. I had to become trustworthy, whether they recognized it immediately or not. I also had to learn somebody can forgive me and still have boundaries. They can forgive you and still not lend you money. They can forgive you and still not let you stay in their home. They can love you and still not trust you around certain things. They can support your recovery and still decide they do not want to restart a relationship with you. That doesn't always mean they're punishing you. Most of the time, they're just protecting their peace. Forgiveness may be forgiven. Access still has to be earned. And if I'm really changing, I have to respect someone's no without becoming angry, disrespectful, or manipulative. I believe in God. I believe in a higher power. My spiritual life is very important to me. But quoting the Bible does not rebuild trust. Going to meetings does not rebuild trust by itself. Telling everybody that God changed me does not force them to believe me. Jesus talks about the difference between hearing the word and actually putting it into practice. That means my relationship with God should show up in the way I live. It should make me more honest, more patient, more responsible, more humble, more dependable, more willing to admit when I'm wrong. People should be able to experience my spiritual growth through the way I treat them. I don't have to keep announcing that God changed me. I have to live in a way where they can see the change for themselves. So how did I rebuild my relationships? First, I had to acknowledge the damage. I stopped running from what I did. I stopped minimalizing things, making them not so big. For them, it was big. To me, it may have been small, right? I stopped blaming everything on addiction. The next thing I did, I had to admit whenever I could without creating more harm. I apologized. I paid people back what I promised them. I corrected lies. I started doing things differently. I became dependable. I showed up. I answered the phone. I kept my word. I handled my responsibilities. I invested into other people. I called them. I checked in on them. I listened. I became present. I respected boundaries. I stopped trying to force people to forgive me or trust me before they was ready. I stayed consistent because the strongest apology is changed behavior. I was addicted to drugs and alcohol for over 35 years. Today, I'm coming up on 5 years sober. My family trusts me. Some of them even call me for advice. And that's crazy when you think about it. Here I am, someone who spent over 35 years addicted to drugs and alcohol, and now I have family members who have never been addicted to anything calling me and asking me, what do I think? And the reasons is very obvious, right? Because they saw the change. They didn't just hear me talk about it, they watched me live it. And I've repaired relationships that I truly believe were dead. But it didn't happen overnight. Sobriety gave me another chance. Accountability helped me face what I did in the past, the things I did wrong. Amends helped me repair what I could. Consistency helped people believe in me. Patience taught me not to rush their healing. And my relationship with God taught me that change has to be lived, not just talked about. I cannot go back and rewrite the 35 years of my life, but I can live definitely today. Let me ask you guys something. You can leave your answers down in the comments. What has been the hardest thing for you to rebuild after addiction? Is it trust with your family, lovers, and friends? Respect with people that you love, you care about? Your communication, friendships, or your relationships with your family?